Hello, my name's Jeff.
My name is Yishi.
We're going to be your guides as we take you guys through a cultural immersion experience to travel to Everest Base Camp. We're creating this video for you to play back to help you with planning and help you understand what you're getting into. Let's start off by doing our roles. I'm going to be your trek leader, so I'll be making the decisions on whether or not we're going to proceed and who's going to proceed and things like that each day. And I'm also going to be coordinating with your in-country staff, your support Nepali people, and with you to make sure everybody's got the expectations set. You'll ask me questions. I might not always answer them. Sometimes I'll get some help from Hishi, and sometimes I'll be getting some help from the locals.
And I will be assisting you in translating, guiding you all in shopping, and whatever things you will need.
Okay, so the most common place that people go in conversations like this is an immediate execution about what to pack and what to leave behind. What I want to do is help you guys set some expectations a little bit on where your risks really are. So let me start with the items that are very low risk based on the time of the year we're going and where we're going. First of all, rain and snow are both very low risk for us. The monsoon will be over, but the cold winters will not have yet hit the places in the Himalaya where we're going to be trekking for the most part. So concerning yourself with lots of rain protection or snow protection is not necessary. It may happen, but statistically it's unlikely. The other plus we have working for us is we're probably not going to have any issues with insects. So need for lots of bug repellents and netting to try to protect ourselves from bugs. You won't need any of that as well. The other thing that's low risk that most people don't understand is not having the right gear with you when you make the trip is also very low risk. Kathmandu is filled with little shops that'll help you purchase gear, rent gear that you need. So any jackets, backpacks, sleeping bags, clothing is low cost, lamps, almost everything in my list is something you can get in Everest or at the places in Kathmandu where we're going to shop without any difficulties whatsoever. Moderate risk. Let me talk about things that are moderate risk, meaning you're going to see people both in our group and on the trail who have experienced this stuff. First one is AMS. AMS is acute mountain sickness. There's a moderate risk that at some time during the trip you're going to have headaches, nausea, and shortness of breath. And the other risk I'd say that's moderate is that you're going to be carrying too many things. We are not going to have many opportunities to use the gear we're bringing, and you really don't need as much as you probably do. Hishi's probably going to have 5 kilograms worth of stuff. I will probably have 7 to 8 kilograms worth of stuff, plus our group gear, first aid kits. So we're not going to be needing that much stuff. At the highest of risk levels, though, I would say number one is not having enough fitness. In some instances, you can't get the fitness because most of you don't have the ability to practice existence above 14,000 feet. That's the highest point in the lower 48, and we're going to spend almost a week of our trip above that altitude, so there's really no real way to plan for it. Not practicing extended exertion is also a high-risk item. For many people, they think if they go out and run a half marathon or do something of that nature to prepare themselves one time before we go, that they're ready. Each day you're going to be at a high altitude, pushing your heart rate up very, very high for multiple hours at a time and leaving it there. And in general, we don't practice that. Even I'm an ultra runner. Even as an ultra runner in a 3-hour run and I keep my heart rate at 160, that's not necessarily going to replicate what we're going to experience there. It'll be 160, but it could be a lot longer than that. The other high-risk item is people not having peace with the reality that your body's just going to be breaking down while you're up there. If you get a cold, you're not going to get over it. If you get sick, the likelihood of you healing during the trip is slim to nil because you think your body can just suck it up and keep going. You're in an environment with germs your body's not exposed to. You're at high elevation, and you're in a place where the water supply isn't as clean as you're probably used to. So all those things make it difficult. Colds do not go away in the Himalaya at this time of the year. So if you get a cold, it's just not going to go away while you're here. Let me give you some background on the experience for thinking through the gear that's bigger than the gear itself. So the first conversation to have is the length of day conversation. Sunrise each day is going to occur around 6, and sunset is going to be around 5:30, and each day will be shorter than the previous day. That means there's going to be more darkness than light. So the amount of time you're going to spend in the dark is going to be a big number. Plan for that. You're going to have more night than day, and you're probably going to be indoors more than you're going to be outdoors. So having things to do while you're inside is something a lot of people don't plan for. Second item is the weather. Even though I told you earlier we're probably not going to have rain or snow, we're going to have a huge temperature variance. You could see temperatures as low as 20 below zero at night or early in the morning when we get up. And you might see temperatures as high as 70 degrees during the day once we get north of Namche Bazaar. You're never going to experience a heater at any time, even though there'll be a few moments perhaps where you get to sit next to a fireplace, but those will be few moments. As such, think about what you want to have with you to be comfortable if you're in the cold continuously for a week. We'll cover that in our clothing topic. Tap water is in general not okay in Nepal. You have two choices. You can choose to buy bottled water where it's available, or you can take the tap water and filter it or insert a purification pill. In general, the mistake people make is they'll use tap water to do things like brush their teeth or wash their face, not realizing that a few drops get in their mouth, and that's all it takes for you to get amoebic dysentery or giardia. The bathing, or lack thereof. Once we get north of Namche Bazaar, we're not going to have access to any hot water, in the sense that there might be a boiling cup of water for you to have a cup of tea, but there's not going to be any water for you to bathe with, and the temperatures are going to be low. As such, the need to change clothing is quite low, because you're not going to be putting clean clothing on a dirty body thinking you're going to change your smell anymore. Power won't be readily available either. Bringing a charging brick is a good idea. Many of you are going to use your phone as your camera. I'm going to be one of those people. And you won't be able to charge it each night with a device that perhaps you're not carrying. So I'm bringing a large charging brick, and I'll show you that later. In general, including Kathmandu, you're not going to have lights available for you in the evening. It's commonplace for the power to just go out in the middle of the evening in Kathmandu, and you're going to need either a flashlight or a headlamp to walk from the restaurant back to your hotel. Plan for that now. Don't just have a single light, but have a single light and a backup. So a headlamp and a flashlight would be smart. Number 7, cash is going to be your first choice once you get out of Kathmandu. So you can either exchange money at an ATM with your card and pay a fee, or you can give Kopi Ram some cash and he'll change that for you and give you some rupees, whichever one you're comfortable with. Number 8 is medicine-related issues. You should expect to be able to have access to medicines to help you treat things that you may encounter in Nepal, specifically intestinal, bacterial, and topical issues that you might be experiencing on the skin. If you have other issues, high blood pressure or something like that, for which you're taking medicine back in the States, you should plan on bringing your own supply of medicine, because you won't be able to get them there. And the last item, and you'll hear me say this again and again, is we're going to have to prioritize group safety and group success above all things. As you watch me make decisions, as we talk to Hishi about what we should be doing next, it's going to be with the entire group in mind, not necessarily one individual has a unique need. So keep that in mind. The more fit you are, the less likely you are to be left behind or left out of something we're going to do. All right, so while hiking, we're going to start with packing what you should wear while hiking. We're going to go from the bottom up. Many people feel that the way to go is to have a large, thick pair of boots, and there's nothing wrong with that. I wear these when I trek and I'm carrying a large pack. Because I'm going to be using a porter, I'm going to have a lighter pair made by Hoka One One. These are about half the weight of these, so they don't have the steel shank in them for support that these do, but I don't need the steel shank if I'm not going to have a 40-pound pack. I'm always going to be wearing a pair of wool blended socks. I use merino wool and polyester blend. You can use 2 layers if you'd like, but there's no cotton in this at all. Cotton will get wet and it won't dry quickly, especially at elevation. So when I'm walking, that's what I'm wearing. When we reach camp at the end of the day, these are very comfortable to put on if you'd like to, or you can wear a pair of running shoes if you'd like. Either one of those are good. Despite the fact you're going to see Nepali people carrying 150-pound packs wearing flip-flops, we need to make sure you understand that you're not used to that, and just because they're doing it, you shouldn't do it. You should be wearing what you're used to wearing, thinking that the only part of your body that's going to be touching the Himalaya is your feet, and you need to protect them above all things, because once your feet go, the trip is over. So take care of your feet. These you shouldn't be hiking in either for the same reason. There's no ankle support as you step on an uneven surface. All right, going up from there are your pants. I strongly encourage having a belt, if either not built in or have it with you, because you're going to want to hang things potentially from your belt. And as the weight of your pack or your day pack comes along, you're going to find that this will keep your pants up better. Another thing that's natural is you're going to drop some weight as you're in the Himalaya, and your pants might appear to get bigger, even though they're really not. It's you that's getting smaller, and a belt helps address that. I have a pair of cool pants, so they're very flexible. They're windproof and water resistant. They're not waterproof, but I'm not concerned about rain. And I can zip off the bottom. So if I get hot, I can zip off the bottom and make these into a pair of shorts. I will have one pair of these, and I'll be wearing them every day for the entirety of the trek. I might not have a backup pair. I'll just have this one pair. Going up from there, I'll have a pair of nylon underwear. You want to have something so that if it gets wet, it dries in a matter of minutes. And as best as possible, get one that doesn't smell bad as you sweat inside of it. So this is the style, this brand that I'm going to use. You're not going to sleep in these, but you're going to trek in these. I will probably have 2, perhaps 3 pair at the most of these. We'll get a chance to do a little bit of wash in Namche Bazaar, but the 7 or 8 days above Namche Bazaar, we're not going to get a chance to change at all. Up from there, we're going to have a base layer on our upper body. The upper body is going to have 3 layers basically. It's going to have a base layer, which is a thin wicking material. So this is pulling everything off my skin. So anytime I sweat, the wicking material pulls it off. Outside of that, I'm going to have a layer of fleece. This is something that's warm and comfortable. That'll keep everything that my body's creating that slips through here in, and it's going to be very soft to the touch. But that's not windproof, nor is it going to help me if we have a bitter cold. And for that, I have a thick down jacket. You can rent these if you don't wish to buy them. I have a Mountain Hardwear. I have a very nice brand that I used when I was both in New Zealand, in the mountains in New Zealand, and it's been to the Himalaya and the Tetons. This is my go-to jacket. Above that, I'm going to have a hat. The hat is going to have a wide brim on it to keep the sun off. Remember, you're going to be at high elevation, exposed to lots and lots of UVs, and it might not be the coolest thing to wear, but you want to be able to protect your ears and your neck with some coverage. And you're going to want a pair of sunglasses. They don't have to be polarized, but they need to be UVA and UVB at 100% if at all possible. If it gets cold and windy and the clouds are out, then you won't need this hat, because if the clouds are out, then you might want to walk in a traditional toboggan. This will keep you warm as you go, and you can readily pull it off if you get too hot. Reach our tea houses at the end of each day. It'll be a much more relaxed atmosphere, and you'll spend a lot of time stepping in and out. And this is where you're going to want to be as comfortable as possible. When you reach a tea house, the temptation is to just take your pack and sit down. But the truth is, when you get there, you want to take your pack off and change into your tea house clothes. And so I'm going to share with you what my tea house clothes are. For me, I have a pair of all cotton underwear that I'm going to wear, and I'm going to also sleep in these. This is my sleeping shorts. I'm going to put those on, and over the top of them, I'm going to put an all cotton pair of sweatpants. This is just for comfort's sake. This isn't necessarily to keep me warm, but there's no risk inside a tea house of getting a lot of wet and moisture, so cotton's the way to go. For the same kind of thinking, I'm going to put on a long sleeve cotton t-shirt as well. And that'll be my go-to sitting around inside this tea house. In the event the tea house is cold, which it darn well could be, I'm going to put my fleece jacket on as well inside the tea house. And I'll probably also put on my hat if it gets really cold. And I'm also going to change my socks. The socks that you've been walking in during the day will generally dry out, but only if you take them off for an extended period. So when you reach a tea house, changing into this will help a lot. So let's talk about what we're going to have in our day pack as we're walking throughout the day. I have a very lightweight day pack, so it probably weighs 2 pounds, and it has lots of pockets to stuff things. I can put clothing I don't need in here. Mine has a built-in pack cover, so for whatever reason I'm doing a river crossing or it does rain, at least the contents of this are going to stay relatively dry. I will not pack very much in here. If I could only pack one thing and one thing only in here, I would say that one thing would be a water bladder. Water is something you should have access to all the time that never requires any inconvenience to another person. So if I need to drink water, I shouldn't have to tell anybody I need to stop and drink water, or would you mind stopping? By having this and it attached to your shoulder, I have no problem. Some of you don't like these, and just having a traditional bottle that you can readily reach and drink from while you're walking works just fine as well. Throughout the day, we will stop at least once, sometimes twice, at smaller tea houses along the way just to take a break and have something to drink. I'm going to strongly encourage you carry your own cup. You don't have control over how well they've been washed, but you do have control over how well yours has been washed, as well as carrying a sport. So if you did choose to get some eggs at a break, a bowl of soup, whatever it is, you have something here that you can guarantee is clean, and this doesn't take up much space as well. If you do happen to get this exact same kind of mug, put your name or a label on a piece of duct tape so we don't confuse them as we walk throughout the day. You're going to want to have some sanitizer or equivalent for the same reason. You're going to want to wash your hands if you get there. As you walk throughout the day, this is the most likely piece of clothing, your fleece, that you're going to want to take on and put on and take off as the weather changes. I've got listed here hat and gloves. The gloves I carry are battery-powered gloves. My fingers do not hold heat very well, especially at 20 below zero first thing in the morning, and we have to walk for an hour in that temperature. So mine have a built-in battery array that'll warm my fingertips up to 70 degrees. This is the most expensive item I'm carrying, but it's because I've tried to go without it, and I'm not okay without it. Toilet paper. There is no promises that there'll be toilet paper when you reach a camp or a place to stay. You probably want to have some. My recommendation is you have 2 rolls, but at the very least you want to bring 1 roll. And last 2 or 3 items here are somewhat individual. We recommend collapsible hiking sticks, something that you can walk with, especially when we start going downhill to prevent you from getting hurt, and a knife. For those of you who are trying to not use anything other than a carry-on, you'll have to buy one of these in Kathmandu. They're not for rent, but you're going to want some kind of multi-purpose knife on the trail. You're going to get bags, items you're going to want to open up, items you may need to cut, clean, whatever the case may be, and you're going to want to have access to this. And if you don't have one, make sure the person you're with has one, because the truth is, you really only need one of those per room or per 2 players. There's other items that I mentioned earlier. A charging brick. You won't need this during the day, but you should have it. And I have a reader. This is addressing the issue associated with more dark than light. So when I'm indoors, this will come out a lot as I'm waiting for the time to pass to go to sleep. The lights I use are all high-strength halogen lights, and I'm going to have a headlamp as well, but I'll have 2 equivalent lights associated with myself on the trip. Let's talk about packing your stuff. If you do plan on carrying your own gear, you want to have a 75-liter framed pack of some sort. The more pockets, the better. Your sleeping bag will go at the bottom since you need it the least, and the stuff you need access to the most will be on top. You'll want to have water, medicine, anything like that on the side pouches for you. If you're going to have a porter, do not inconvenience him by giving him one of these. You want to take a duffel bag equivalent, preferably 75 to 90 liters, that has 2 requirements. You want it to be something that you can lock, meaning there's a lock on the zippers to prevent people from going into it, and you want to make sure it's water resistant in some sort. It's not because we're going to get rain, it's just very commonplace for a porter to slip and drop things, and it's commonplace that your bag ends up in the puddle or in the side of a river at some point during the trip. It just happens enough for me to say I want to include that in the video. So pick one of those 2 for carrying. Do not give a porter a backpack and say, well, I changed my mind, I'm not going to carry it. Commit before you leave to say, I'm either carrying my own stuff or I'm going to use a porter. All right, set those aside. Let's talk about sleeping bags. Because of the temperature variance, you've got to bring your own sleeping bag. Some people buy sleeping bags that look like this, and it has a label on it that gives you a rating. If you can make it this small, it's not good enough. This is not big enough to keep you warm in the Himalaya. This is a camp out in front of the TV on Friday night bag. That's not what we're talking about. You want to have a thicker bag that's going to have a rating that's way below 0. It's going to have multiple ways to zip it. I use this brand. This one's currently rated for 0 or 18 below C. It's tested to. I've used it many times, including in Nepal. It works just fine. When you compress this down, it'll be about a quarter of the size of the whole backpack or a third of the size of the whole duffel. You do not want to leave it compressed. You want to leave it out as much as you can, for when you leave it compressed, it loses some of its heating. The other thing I carry is a collapsible pillow. You can get an inflatable pillow or one like this that just folds up. This is because we're going to spend so much time in our sleeping bags laying down. It doesn't make sense to cut corners when 1/8 of the entire trip is going to be spent with your head touching something. It should be touching something that you control. I also bring a liner. Because I'm not going to be showering and I'm going to be laying down inside of this at the end of each day, this mummy liner slips inside of my sleeping bag, and I'll actually sleep inside of this, and I can rinse this off and dry it readily. It's a very, very lightweight liner. I can rinse this off and dry this without having to worry about soiling my, my sleeping bag. So that'll sit out. At night, when I go to bed, the temperature will continue to drop, and the most annoying thing that happens in the middle of the night is I have to go to the bathroom. For the guys and the girls alike, you might want to look at some of the technology to help you pee in the middle of the night. Girls, they make a pee funnel, and guys, I'm bringing a Gatorade bottle, a large Gatorade bottle, and during the night I'll pee into the Gatorade bottle. In the morning I'm going to pour it out. So I set this up here just to make the point, so when you're playing the video back, you know what you're looking for. Comfort food. I don't have any laying out here, but in the event you're sick, you have acute mountain sickness, the odds are you're going to want something you'd like to eat, and you might not have access to the kitchen if it's late at night. So bring some Cliff Bars, Snickers bars, whatever it is that you like to as a go-to comfort food, because you're going to want to have it. Clothing. So inside your packing system, you're going to want to compartmentalize everything. I take a 2-gallon Ziploc, and I'm going to put all of my tea house clothing inside of there. So this one Ziploc will have my sweatpants, my sweatshirt, t-shirt, underwear. Everything will sit inside of here. That way, because it's all cotton, I don't have to worry about it getting wet. And it's also easy to find. So when I reach the tea house, I just reach in and grab the 2-gallon Ziploc, and vice versa. Last item I think that's appropriate for sleeping is having a toiletries kit. Here it is. So I have a small bag like this that's going to contain my toiletries. So I'll have whatever kind of medicines I want, my toothbrush. I have this here because this is my normal one. You really shouldn't need deodorant. You're going to smell, and there's really little you can do about it. Having disinfectant wipes is probably more valuable. Whatever medicines you feel you're going to need. If you have to clean braces, anything with contact lenses, small rag, all that's appropriate. And cut. And thanks for watching that video. I hope it helps you compartmentalize both your thinking and your packing. I'm going to send you a link to Everest Base Camp Trekking Guide, or ebctrekkingguide.com, and there's a link there where you can also get a list that you can print out and use as you go. See you in October.